Explain to me why you consider me...
He said it was recorded in a van. Okay.
...a stenographer for the Israeli government, given that in the last week, I think more than any other host in the world, I have given lengthy platforms to pro-Palestinian voices to articulate that side of the argument.
No, I do have to commend you. You certainly have had more pro-Palestinian voices than the rest of the British media and certainly the rest of Western media in general. Now, as far as saying that you're a stenographer, I said that journalists are not supposed to be stenographers, and yet when it comes down to it, in most circumstances, in whatever conflict we may be in, there are stenographers for whichever party is aligning with the American State Department and the interests of the West in general. And Israel happens to be the one in this ongoing conflict.
But it's interesting that you call me a propagandist, because I want to play you. This was your reaction to when the hospital got...
Oh no, we're going hard right off the bat. People are saying that he's trying to lower his voice or fake Riz voice. So I would say on one hand, if it's really early for him, his voice might just be deep. Like even like when I wake up in the morning, my voice is even like way down. Like it's possible, but then also I'm pretty sure I've heard him do the deep Riz voice when he's on other shows, so it might be intentional as well. I don't know, it's hard to say. Because didn't he do that on the was it Context? Was that the name of the show that he was on where he built it on his own? I don't remember the name of the show, but I think he does try to do that. Oh, Complex. I think Vosh tries to do that too. So I don't know if he was trying to deep his voice on it. Who cares or whatever.
Propagandist, because I want to play you. This was your reaction to when the hospital got bombed.
I'm a propagandist.
Well, no,
for the record.
I'm not calling
I'm
you
a
that.
propagandist.
I'm just saying. I'm going to play you.
I'm saying I am.
Okay, well then I want to
I'm saying I am.
I just
before
want to
you even play it.
Okay, I'm going to play the clip. This is your reaction to the bombing of the hospital the other night.
LeMayo at Destiny, you and your chat are so uncharitable to Hasan, down to how he sounds or breathes. It's the same thing you say you hate about Vosh in his community. Okay, kind of, but like, here's something that I haven't figured out. I don't know how to thread the needle on this one yet. Just as a real quick aside. Sometimes people are fake and performative, and I think it's good to call it out, but it's hard to call it out without always coming across as unhinged or obsessed. I feel like there's an issue right now that exists in media, or I say media, maybe alternative media, or maybe in my world, where there's a really good defense of everything, and that's just saying, wow, rent-free, wow, obsessed, wow, rent-free, wow, obsessed, to where a person can do like horrible or say horrible or be performative as and then anytime somebody criticizes them, like, oh, wow, you're obsessed. Oh, wow, you're obsessed. Donald Trump did it with his fans. Oh, Trump derangement syndrome. Oh, Trump derangement syndrome. Oh, Trump derangement syndrome. So, I mean, there is a point where it's like too much to call out, but I think it's worth calling out when you see it. Like Vosh's performativity, I think is very worth calling out. Like he comes off as very magnanimous, very courteous, very kind, very charismatic, very everything when he's at public events. He's a very good speaker, but he's like the opposite of all of that. He's like a snake, right? The Alpha Luke, thanks for the $49.89 donation. I appreciate it.
Happened here, get clarification, see who's actually to blame before we start passing judgment. You raced in to assume, as many people did, by the way, including the New York Times, BBC, mainstream media, and of course, most of the Arab world.
Dog, you paused to call it 5 things in 10 minutes, maybe a bit much. Okay. I understand I'm just reading one chatter's message, and I'm getting one guide right now, okay? But you guys complained before that I didn't react enough, okay? Now I'm reacting a lot, and you're complaining. I need you to make up your mind, chat. You have to move as one unified body and stop one guying me, okay?
World, BBC, you raced in to assume, as many people did, by the way, including the New York Times, BBC, mainstream media, and of course, most of the Arab world, then followed, that this was clearly, indisputably, an Israeli airstrike on this hospital. And yet all the evidence now suggests very strongly that it wasn't, that in fact, this was a rocket that misfired coming from a terrorist.
As far as me being a propagandist goes, everyone is a propagandist. I'm just honest about it. You're a propagandist. We have our biases.
I'm curious who you think I'm a propagandist
I'm honest about my biases.
Who do you think I'm a propagandist?
It's insane for Hasan to say that. Now, to be clear, let me say a couple things. Propaganda is not bad, okay? Propaganda means that you're releasing news that's probably favorable to a certain side because you're trying to drum up support for that side. But propaganda can take all sorts of, shapes and forms. For instance, let's say that we have like a Navy, Top Gun. We can say Top Gun is propaganda, right? Something that shows our military in a good light, makes people want to go and fly planes, makes people want to join the military. Top Gun is absolutely propaganda for the US military. I think explicitly so. I think they ask the US military if they can use their planes, and I believe that part of the U.S. military agreement with films that want to do, films that want to have access to U.S. military equipment is you can't show the U.S. military in a bad light, right? So if you want to fly a plane, that's cool, but the story can't be about how like the president is trying to kill, civilians or whatever, right? Some crazy shit like that. So in a way, it's propaganda. Propaganda is only bad when it's a lie, okay? And Hasan is using the lie version of propaganda here, that you're selectively telling certain facts to push a narrative. That is horrible. That is not good propaganda. And I don't like that all forms of propaganda are just kind of like taken and thrown together. It's like, oh, it's propaganda. Like, yeah, there's a difference between like a certain type of propaganda that just makes your side look good and like Russian propaganda that's showing Arma 3 footage or like lying or fabricating stories. Those are two totally different things. Hasan has been leaning into this quite a bit. Hasan has been leaning into this quite a bit. This idea that he just like does propaganda for his side and he doesn't have to like be honest or tell the facts exactly 100% correct because everybody else does it. It's very scary. It's the Russian version of how they do propaganda, where they say like, oh, well, we lie because everybody else lies. It's very, 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 very scary.
Propagandist for?
Who do I think you're propagandist for? Whichever every media person is doing propaganda.
But who for? I've got to be doing it with somebody.
You think it's a bad word. I don't. That's just the difference. This is a semantics conversation.
I think it's actually quite a serious charge. Hasan, I think it's a serious charge to level, not as a podcaster, but as a journalist who's broadcasting around the world, who has a reputation, I believe, for being fair and impartial, actually, on these issues. It's quite a charge to just say, I'm a stenographer for the Israeli government or I'm a propagandist. I don't think there's any evidence that I'm either of those things. I'm curious who you think I'm doing the propaganda for. While we're having this
conversation, 3,000, Piers, while we're having this back and forth, 3,840 Palestinians have been ruthlessly slaughtered.
I look out for these types of conversational tactics so much now. Anytime I hear people do this, I very immediately start throwing up red flags. When you're refusing to engage with a question or you like pivot into weird stuff like this, or if you have an inability to directly and somewhat concisely answer a question, I immediately assume that you are functioning in bad faith and you're trying to sell me something different than what's factually correct. There's something else going on. Hasan does this a lot.
3,840 Palestinians have been ruthlessly slaughtered in the last incursion into Gaza. I feel like this is an incredibly selfish, self-centered conversation to have. You asked me to be on here. You wanted to hear my perspective. I'm willing to give it to you. I don't want to talk about I don't want to talk about Noam Chomsky style manufacturing consent conversations about how
what even happened here. Also, has he never seen Piers Morgan before? This is a very standard Piers Morgan interview. We watched him do this to Tate, to Pearl, to everybody. This is just how Piers Morgan, there's a style of, I don't know if I would call it a British news style, but I feel like I see British people do this a lot, where it's very railroady. Like, I'm going to ask you, I'm going to ask you this question. I'm going to ask you this question. I'm going to ask you, I'm going to ask you this question, and you're going to answer this question because of this thing that I saw, right? It's very, and Piers has done this a few times in this conversation. It's like I don't know if it's a British style, but I feel like I see British interviewers do it a lot. There's probably some American interviewers do it, but Piers is very, very, very good at this style of conversation. I feel like Hasan should know that coming into this.
How the media is operating at the behest of capital.
You were the guy. Listen,
I think
you were the guy that called me.
There are dead people.
Listen, Hasan, I only asked you because you're the guy that called me a propagandist and called me a baboon in a suit. I was curious as to why. You don't want to say who I'm doing the propaganda for. We'll move on. I agree with you. There's a bigger picture here. Let's move on.
I love the Hasan laugh. That's my favorite thing. I wish I could take from him. The Hasan laugh is so good.
Like the missile hit the Gaza hospital. Both sides blamed each other. That's the breaking news, right? And instead of waiting for more information, you jump to conclusions saying it was 100% Israel. 100%.
Okay.
We're so confident.
Good point.
All the
Good point. Can I ask you a question?
Oh boy. Now let's see if we can try to let's pull this. Okay, clearly I'm wrong here, but let's pull this into some autistically niche territory that he's not going to have information on, so I can look right. Okay.
No. Hold on. This is important. This is important. No, we're not jumping. We're talking about this. Okay. We're talking about this specific thing. Finally, now we're talking about Israel and Palestine. When I said that, I didn't just go, oh, I have no other opinion on this matter. I simply think Israel definitely did this because I want Israel to have definitely done this.
You see the dumb Osama bin Laden trying on TikTok? Yeah.
The reason why I said this, and you do this regularly, okay? When I say something on this stream, okay, oftentimes, especially if it's a developing story.
How do you know I say this stuff?
Especially if it's a developing story, when I say something on an issue that is happening, I look to all of the circumstantial evidence on the matter, and I look to everything else that is going on thus far. Now, we're two adult individuals here. Do you think it is unfair to say Israel blew up the hospital, like Israel bombed the hospital?
I think when there's a
I hate that he's pretending. God, I hate this so much. I don't know how transparent it is. I like how he's pretending that he's going through some like process, some epistemically valid process to arrive at conclusions about breaking news, when the reality is he hates Israel, or America more precisely, and he'll just grab whatever factoid fits that, and then he basically works backwards from that conclusion. Like, bro, don't sit here and pretend like you were going through a multitude of stories on the... You probably didn't even read a full article about the bombing, and you're sitting here pretending like you had some epistemically valid process by which you were able to divine the actual truth of the bombing that just happened to be completely and totally wrong, that you got so incorrect about it. Like, come on, dude.
Claim like that, you wait for information, right? I mean, there's a million things.
The information is that there was.
I respond. There's a million things to criticize the IDF for. That's right out there, right? You know this. I've seen you do it all day on stream. You get them on that they 100% deserve. But when there's something like that, and instead of waiting for reports, while the report is literally Israel and Hamas blame each other, right? You don't know what the story is. You don't know who did it or not.
Does anybody have a video? Was it him or was it Vosh who was saying like, oh yeah, that definitely sounds like a JDAM? Was that him or was it Vosh?
Deserve. But when there's something like that, and instead of waiting for reports, while the report is literally Israel and Hamas blame each other, right? You don't know what the story is. You don't know who did it or not. And you say 100%, they 100% did it. That's a huge disaster, bro. That's like
at that point. First of all, who do you think blew up the hospital? Like the hospital courtyard, rather. Who do you think bombed the hospital courtyard?
I think most investigations point towards it being either the Islamic Jihad or Hamas, right? It's like a misfired rocket. And then what you did in response to that was, instead of being like, yeah, I think since most of the reports are going this way.
Why do you think it's hold on. Why do you think it's a Hamas or Islamic Jihad and a rocket misfire?
I like how he's just mining and mining and mining. This is the last strategy, right? He's mining and mining and mining for something that the guy might not know about, so that then he can hammer him on some irrelevant, like esoteric side fact that has nothing to do with the initial claim of Hasan was clearly using a propaganda mindset to arrive prematurely at a conclusion about breaking news, right? Like, how far is he going to dig on this? Like, oh yeah, it was because of that. Well, do you even know the make and model? Do you even know the chemical makeup of the fuel that the custom rockets use? Do you like?
Well, that was just what most of the investigations turned out.
So
I know Channel 4 had a different one.
Because you're bringing this up, and this is really important to understand. One, all of the circumstantial
you say that every time, but it never is.
Okay, all of.
That was a good one-liner.
And this is really important to understand. One, all of the circumstantial.
Oh, true. I wonder if Hasan was hoping that he would say, oh, Hamas bombed them. And he would go, oh, Hamas? You don't even know all of the different groups operating out of the Gaza Strip, because it wasn't actually Hamas people think it was. It was a totally different group, and you probably don't even know the name. That's probably what he was fishing for. But when he said Islamic jihadists, it was dialogue trip, so now he's got to hop to some different... You're probably right. That's probably what happened.
I appreciate that, Destiny.
All right. Bye. Remember to hit that like and subscribe, and don't forget the notification bell so that my videos show up right in your feed.